Hello and welcome to Talk Time. My guests today are a father-son duo, Tabla Maestro and Sitar exponent Pandit Nayan Ghosh and his rising star of a son, Ishan, among the best-known tabla players in the younger generation of Indians. Born in an illustrious family of classical musicians, Pandit Nayan Ghosh has mesmerized audience around the world with his sitar and tabla renditions. Pandit Nayan Ghosh and Ishan, welcome to Talk Time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Panditji, tell me, how is it like having a guru at home? Because you are the son of the illustrious tabla player, Pandit Nikhil Ghosh. And of course, you also have a guru right at home. Your guru, of course, your dad, Pandit Nayan Ghosh. How is it like having the guru at home? You also had the same experience?
Yes.
And fortunately, your son also has the same experience now.
It has been a great blessing, I would say, to be born in a musician's family and especially a distinguished musician's family. And it saved me so much of effort and botheration. Looking for a guru. Often people spend half their lifetime looking for the right guru. And I was lucky I got my father right from my infancy.
Yeah.
And that saved me a lot of time in the sense acquiring the training, the practice, the correct techniques, and the total musicality. It was a joyful atmosphere at home right from my infancy.
So, Ishan, tell me, how challenging is it? Is it as simple as what your dad described, or is it terrifying at times? Where can I go wrong? I have a guru in the form of my dad.
No.
How is it?
Well, I think it depends on the personality of the guru.
Okay.
More than anything. So what happened in case of my father and me is that he's a very, very lenient kind of a guru.
Okay.
And so the division between a father and a guru never existed since the beginning.
Okay.
And they were often like friends.
Most
Often
of the
like
times
friends.
most of the times we were like friends.
So, Ishan, improvisation, do you think is the key? Because, you see, classical music, I am not one of those who thinks that Indian classical music is under threat, not at all. Because the roots are so strong that no outside influence or no Western influence can actually shake the
Very
roots,
true.
foundation of Indian classical music.
Absolutely,
But, Ishan, as a youngster, to keep the audience captivating or to move with the times, to move with the taste of the audience, what kind of improvisations have you done, or do you think improvisation holds the key?
Well, of course, talking about classical music, I think the base lies within improvisation. But of course, improvisation in classical music has its own boundaries, and the boundaries are marked by the grammar of the raga and tala and things like that.
Yeah.
So what we do is, not we. I'm talking about generations before us. What classical music has been coming down from. So the improvisation lies within these boundaries, and we just the pure traditional music has so much charm and it's so attractive. So we don't need to, just working within that particular music, I think we can attract any kind of audience and we can keep them captivated.
If I can put it more simply, it's something like a huge lake which has its boundaries, and yet the swan enjoys the complete freedom swimming across the lake.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course. That's a very nice way of putting it. Now, Pandit Nayan Ghosh, you started, your first solo tabla recital was when you were 4-year-old. What was the occasion? And if I'm not mistaken, I'll come to you. You started at performing at the age of 7.
2.5.
Internationally, accompanying your dad at the age of 7.
Yeah.
Well, in my case, it was a radio broadcast which was live in those days, All India Radio. And, I was to play a tabla solo, and so I think I was cool.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me or excite me or made me any nervous at all. It just happened very naturally. And then there was a big kind of buzz around the Bombay city, you know, about this little boy of 4 playing tabla solo. Likewise, I mean, like every generation has to progress.
Absolutely.
And as the older people say, you know, the next generation picks up from where we leave. I found something similar because Ishan's first tabla solo concert was, he was 2 years, 10 months old.
2 years, 10 months.
Yeah, his solo concert.
Okay, very interesting. And you started accompanying your dad when from the age of 7.
Yeah, I mean, I started performing actively with him since I was 7. Yeah.
So do you also engage yourself in jugalbandis?
Oh, we do. You know, jugalbandis, when we play tabla together, like a duo, then it's called a jugalbandi, and we, of course, I mean, when I'm playing sitar, he's accompanying me on sitar. So on tabla. So that's not a jugalbandi. But then tabla jugalbandi we have played almost everywhere in India, and our jugalbandis are you know, very well attended by connoisseurs, by musicians, by laymen. It's a joy.
But it's very interesting. You know, you are among the rarest of musicians in the country today who play with land, both the sitar as well as the tabla. You know, and I mean, how do you do that? Because don't you think you know, people at times will think what's going on? I mean, you know, and there was a time apparently when people used to mistake you. Are you the same Nayan Ghosh? You know, I've read somewhere.
Yes, that often happened. Till very recently.
Okay.
And there is no doubt that the two streams are so widely different.
Absolutely diverse.
Tabla and sitar. But probably it came naturally to me because my father was a tabla maestro. My grandfather was a sitar player, which is not known much to people because at that time, taking music as a profession was looked down upon in society. So he used to not give public concerts, but he was a very learned sitar player.
Your grandfather?
Yeah, I never saw him. You know, even my father was a kid when he passed away. But probably it's a hereditary thing that came down, and I took naturally to both the instruments.
What about you? I mean, I know you played a tabla, but you also try your hands at the sitar?
Well, I've learned sitar somewhat when I was younger, of course, from my father, and I think most important was that I grew up in such a rich atmosphere full of music all the time. So it as he said, it came naturally to me as well, playing both. But of course, I've always focused on tabla.
So
since childhood.
music runs in the family's blood, because your uncle Pannalal Ghosh was one of the top flautists in the country. He was also known as the king of North Indian flute.
He was the father figure, because he invented the big bamboo flute for the first time and brought it in Indian classical music. So he has a very special place in Indian musical history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is it challenging? Does it weigh on your shoulders? For example, you, Ishan, that you belong to such an illustrious family. You have to do well, etc., etc. You have to live up to that expectations of the people. You are Pandit Nayan Ghosh's son. Your grandfather was such a top sitar player. Your uncle, your grandfather, granduncle. Was the top flautist, Pannalal Ghosh. I mean, does it weigh on your young shoulders?
Well, I think it's definitely...
Are you conscious of that fact?
Oh.
All the time?
Well, it's definitely a responsibility. It's a huge responsibility to carry on the tradition. I mean, you are never sure if you'll be able to keep up the name. Keeping in mind that
but definitely it's an added responsibility.
Oh yeah. It's a responsibility keeping in mind that each of the all the generations before me have been landmark musicians in their time. So but I think if I think too much about it as a responsibility, it will become a pressure. So
you are aware of it, you are conscious of it,
yes,
but you want to do your own thing and make a mark. On that note, we go for a short break now. Stay on. When I come back, I'll continue this very engaging conversation with Pandit Nayan Ghosh and his illustrious son, Ishan.
Welcome. 2 minutes. 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 2 minutes.
Welcome back. I am in conversation with the father-son duo of musicians, Pandit Nayan Ghosh and his son Ishan, a well-known younger generation tabla player in the country. Pandit Nayan Ghosh, fusion. A lot of people think that fusion, okay, it'll spoil, it'll corrupt the classical, pure classical music traditions. But a lot of people do fusion. But is fusion itself absolutely confused? People confuse what is fusion. It's an absolute misnomer or misunderstood terminology.
Well, to a great extent, yes. But I'll tell you, our very Indian music, the Hindustani music itself, is a product of fusion music, because over the centuries there have been interactions with various kinds. Other cultures like Persian music and Indian music, there have been interactions. Between Indian classical music and folk music, there has been interactions. So fusion has always been a continuous process. And fusion gives space, gives room to a musician to explore more possibilities. And so I wouldn't look down upon it, as long as time will tell whether that product of fusion
are going to be accepted or not.
Is going to stay or not. If it's not really much valid, it will have a natural death.
But Ishan, you see, I mean, like, you're a youngster. Now, question is, classical music. I mean, music, as we all know, has no boundaries. It has no language and so on and so forth. But the point is, what is fusion? Fusion is supposed to have two streams coming together and creating something totally new.
Creating a third one.
Creating a third one. That's very well said.
Yeah.
Creating a third one. But most of the time we see that doesn't really happen, and nothing concrete emerges out of it.
Yeah, it's like you go to a restaurant and, well, I'm eating pizza and you eat biryani and we are just eating on the same table. But then, where's the third product?
Where is the third product? It's nothing. So that is what. So one has to be very careful about fusion, isn't it?
Yes. And really, attempts should be made. In fact, the best example today of fusion is Bollywood music. Our Bollywood music ever, since 40, 50 years back also, it's a product of, it's really the fusion music, because...
Now, you see, sorry, I mean, like musicians like you, I mean, lot of classical musicians have been on this program, like Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Saab, Ustad Zakir Hussain, Pandit Vishwamohan Bhatt, Hari Prasad Chaurashia. I have the good fortune of interviewing all of them and lots more, actually.
Masters,
and today I'm fortunate in interviewing both of you. My question is, vocals. People like you are also, you can have a vocal rendition just like that. Are you in favor of that?
Yes.
I mean, it's very interesting. I find it so interesting when I go to a classical concert and the classical musician, to your utter surprise, sings much better than perhaps any established vocalist. I'd like to hear something, from you, if you don't mind.
Well,
it would be lovely.
In my case, my most strongest talim training that I got was in vocal music, and that was simultaneously with tabla since childhood. And then it was at a later stage that around 12 or 13 I picked up sitar. But vocal music has still been at the root of all my training, my understanding of music, everything. Even today, when I perform,
because you performed, you accompanied Ustad Vilayat Khan Saab also, and he had this, among the early pioneers, perhaps,
to sing also.
Yeah.
And even when I play sitar, if I'm playing a vocal composition, I need to justify that, and so I do sing, in my concerts.
To justify what you're playing, whether it is
if it's a vocal composition, I need to justify that. And just playing a vocal composition, playing an outline is not enough. That I'm playing a real bandish or a composition of some great master, I better sing it to justify that.
Do you have a favorite piece?
Oh, nothing favorite, but I can sing something for you if
I don't mind. My viewers would love it.
I'll sing a kajri, which is for the monsoons. Sa ambua tale dola rakh de musafir, आई सावन के बहार रे, अम्बुआ तले ताल में चमके तलई मछलियाँ आरन चमके तलवार तलवार रे आई सावन के बहार.
Interesting. I mean, what about you? Are you also picking up this? Do you also have a vocal rendition at a time? No?
Of course he does.
Yeah, of course. I've had vocal training at home.
Okay.
From him, but playing tabla, there's no
scope.
There's no scope to
There's no
sing.
scope.
भीग जाऊं मैं पिया बचाए लियो भीग जाऊं मैं पिया बचाए लियो झरन लागे बदरिया भीग जाऊं मैं पिया बचाए
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I can visualize the whole thing with music. You know, it will be so lovely. Now, you have also performed with various global musicians.
Oh, sure.
Around the world.
Yeah.
Now, generally, you know, it is being said that Indian classical music, correct me if I am wrong, this is just a perception, that it is today we have reached such a stage in our own country that, you know, classical music is appreciated better in the West than in India. Is it true?
No, this is not true. But I will say one thing. In the West, because they listen in complete silence, and it is often mistaken as that they appreciate it more because people here are a bit more noisy, the environment has some sound or noise. But it's not that. The only difference is here you get the wahwas and tarif, the appreciation spontaneously. There they hold it. They have a lot of control on that. And then they burst
maybe
out
at the
into
end
it.
of the show
They'll give
they
a
give a standing ovation.
Yeah. But then appreciation of good music anywhere in the world is the same. And you can see it in the expression of the Western audiences, and you can see it here from the wahwas of the Indian audiences. So I wouldn't say the West, but yes, the Western, one thing about Indian classical music, the Western people listen to it with far much more seriousness. And there are so many people who have done tremendous research and written some of the finest books on Indian music. Today they are written by Western people.
Right. Now, tell me, Ishan, you know, just like the children of Bollywood stars, star sons or star daughters, lot of struggle is over. I mean, they can get rid of lot of struggles because they belong to a family of actors, already well established father or mother, whatever the case may be, and they are, I mean, have a pretty easy going. At the end of the day, everyone has to prove. That's a different matter. But to make an entry, to make a debut is much easier than perhaps any other struggling actor. Now, in your case, how has it been? Because you became a musician by choice, or you have become a musician because you have to carry on the family tradition? Be frank, your dad is there, I know, but I want your honest answer. As a young man, did you want to do, suppose you would not have been a musician, what would you have perhaps been? You've just completed your 12th. You still have time, but I'm asking this question because I want an answer from you on this.
Well, if I was given a choice, I think there wouldn't have been any other choice other than music because that was what I grew up with, and I mean there was no time to think about anything else other than music, and that was for me personally. It wasn't a forced
it
thing.
came naturally to you.
Exactly, it came naturally. So I'm sorry, I missed the earlier part of the question.
No, that is what, you know, I was asking you, if you would not have been a musician, what would you have been? Perhaps, or there was no question because that was the natural choice.
So it was my natural choice, and coming to the point that if it was easier for me being a part of this lineage, partly it's correct that your struggle becomes less than half when you belong to such an illustrious family. But at the end of the day, you know, you
have to make your mark.
You have to make your own mark, and no name behind you can support you.
Absolutely, youngsters. There is a message there. You may belong to an illustrious family. You may belong to a absolutely established family, but at the end of the day, you have to make your mark on your own. Although the struggle is half reduced, as Ishan has said. On that note, we'll go for another short break. Stay on, we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with the father-son duo of Pandit Nayan Ghosh and Ishan. Pandit Nayan Ghosh, what about Bollywood? Now, a musician like we discussed Bollywood in a different context. At the end of the day, classical musicians, there used to be movies where even your father rendered music, composed the music
Yes.
earlier.
Yeah.
But what is the situation today? Do you get approached by filmmakers to, provide music, compose music, at least partially? What is the situation today?
I do get many offers for composing music for films or for other situations also. But the thing is, my hands are too full at this point of time in my life.
Yeah.
With my own double career and teaching and traveling and all that. But I'll say about the music, all the music in Bollywood that had a classical base are remembered by people even today.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's because of the strength of Indian classical music, the inherent strength of it. However, a big phase went by, 10 years back, 20 years back, where the music was really going in a different direction. And interestingly, people don't remember those songs. And whereas now the newer bunch of music composers and directors are slowly again coming back to those roots. And so the music, the songs of today's, many of the films today, right now, they are very catchy and they are very melodious instead of just the tick, tick, tick noise,
Yeah.
So I get a feeling, see, it's a cycle. It was, at that time we said it was a cycle. Good music is going to come back and it is coming back. And it will always be a cycle.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ishan, what do you do? Do you listen to Western music? Do you listen to bands? What do you do or do you listen to?
Oh, yeah. Since very early childhood, I was always exposed to listening to all kinds of music.
All kinds of different kinds of music.
Yeah, because music is universal.
Yeah.
At home, we were never taught to divide any kind of music or have any barriers, at least to listen and appreciate. So any kind of good music, be it Western classical or jazz or pop or even Bollywood. Being born in the 21st century,
Yeah.
I'm very much exposed to the Bollywood present, the present Bollywood scene, and I enjoy all kinds of music by any good artist or any good music
And
composer.
you've collaborated also with...
Yeah, and I've also had the opportunity to collaborate with various musicians from a wide variety of genres.
Iranian music, Chinese music, Hungarian.
But you
Estonian
yourself
music.
played with
jazz
the
musicians.
Chinese flautist.
Oh,
Hu
yes.
Yolin.
Yes. I have had, there was a beautiful phase in my life where I collaborated with some of the greatest jazz musicians in New Orleans, which is the Mecca of jazz. And also with musicians of different genres, avant-garde musicians like Yamashita of Japan, Watanabe, the guitarist Kazumi Watanabe of Japan, and Filipino musicians, Indonesian, Iranian, Chinese. It has opened up my perspective of world music very much, and I encouraged Ishan to do the same. We, in fact, together, we were part of a collaboration project in Estonia, and we worked with several musicians of other cultures. We worked together with them, and it was really a great experience, because there we forgot that he forgot that I was his father, I forgot that he was my son. We were just like friends collaborating together.
No, that's very interesting, and I think you have got a very interesting experience of teaching. You are the director of the Sangeet Mahabharati,
Yes.
where you get students from
All over,
learning
from all
music
over,
round the clock. So what do you gain from that kind? How does it complement you as a musician?
Well, I have taught for many years, and one thing is for sure, teaching also, you get opportunities to learn through teaching, because you find out so many different ways of interacting
Yeah.
with a student of different levels, IQ levels, their receptivity and so on. So that itself is a learning experience, teaching. And then of course, classroom teaching is one. But over the last 2 decades or so, I have been concentrating on training young professional musicians who have taken this as a career or wish to take it as a career. I'm grooming them because now it's time. The new generation needs to be really well trained. So I try to devote as much time as I can.
But also, if I can add, this is his 50th year of teaching and performing professionally. So
professionally, this is my 50th year of
this year.
Yeah, I started.
That's quite a feat.
Yeah,
quite a feat, a long journey.
Public performances at the age of 12. Today I'm 62. So 50 years of performing and teaching. I started teaching in Sangeet Mahabharati at the age of 12, taking postgraduate students, teaching.
Absolutely, and that is amazing. Do you know that Northeast, we have got about 400 tribes and sub-tribes?
I was aware of that.
And you know, percussion particularly is very rich. You know, dhols, different types of drums we have.
Dhol itself. The
dhol itself.
From all over India, there are so many varieties of dhol, so many sizes, so many shapes, so many volumes, so many possibilities. And there are, my father used to tell me that in Bengal, the Bangla dhol, they used to play full solo recitals.
That reminds me, you were telling me that, you know, Bhupenda, you were telling me that Bhupenda used to know your
my
father very well, and he was a great admirer of your father.
He was, of my father's music, you know, and even as a person. I mean, my father was kind of looked up to by musicians of that generation with tremendous respect and love and affection, because he was an all-round musician. He was a composer, he was a performer, he was a teacher, and he was so full of music, you know, completely soaked, that a lot of people staying around him, spending time with him, used to often say, great musicians I'm talking about, used to often say,
absolutely,
you know, I'm going back home richer.
Going back home richer. All good conversations have to end, Ishan. At the end, what are you planning to do? What do you want to say to the younger generation of musicians in this country, and what are your thoughts as a young musician?
Well, I don't think I'm worthy enough to give any piece of advice.
What are your thoughts?
But just talking from my little experience, I'll say that the best way to achieve whichever goal you want to is to work as hard as possible, sweat it out, and really focus and concentrate on your particular subject.
Work as hard as possible, sweat it out, focus and concentrate. These are very, very good words for the younger generation. They need to do that. Pandit, Nayan, Ghosh and Ishan, thank you very much for being on my program. It was a pleasure having both of you.
Likewise, pleasure for us. What a beautiful interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.